The Prophet said to Bilaal, you look out Fajr for us, so he used Bilaal as the alarm. You're the one who's going to wake us up. Okay, Bilaal? And the Prophet went to sleep, alayhi salatu wasalam. He went to sleep, wa ashabuhu, and his companions also went to sleep with him. Bilaal, he didn't just sit there and wait for Fajr to come. He spent that time praying. And he kept praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. Now he's done his qiyam. He leaned on his riding beast. And he made sure, Bilaal, he's taking all the precautions. He faced towards the direction where he can see the Fajr coming out. So he sat there. He wants to check the time of the Fajr when it comes in. Then what happened? فَغَلَبَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. His eyes overcame him.
وَصَدَقَ وَبَرَّ وَلِسَدِّسْ إِذَا ذُكِّرَ الْعُلَمَاءُ فَمَالُكُ لِلنَّجْمِ. When the scholars are mentioned, and Imam Malik is the star.
الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. وإن the sharh of the Muwatta of Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah ta'ala, in our previous lesson we finished the chapter where the great Imam Imam Malik ibn Anas was talking about Babu Jami' al-Wuqut. Babu Jami' al-Wuqut. Inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to be starting the chapter of Babu Nawmi an as-Salati. Naam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اغفر لشيخنا ولوالديه ولمشايخه وللسامعين وللمسلمين أجمعين. باب النوم عن الصلاة. عن مالك عن ابن شهاب عن سعيد بن المسيب أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين قفل من خيبر أسرى حتى إذا كان من آخر الليل عرس وقال لبلال اكلأ لنا الصبح، ونام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه، وكلأ بلال ما قدر له، ثم استسند إلى راحلته وهو مقابل الفجر، فغلبته عيناه فلم يستيقظ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا بلال ولا أحد من الركب حتى ضربتهم الشمس، ففزع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال بلال يا رسول الله أخذ بنفس الذي أخذ بنفسك، فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اقتادوا، فبعثوا رواحلهم واقتادوا شيئا، ثم أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا فأقام الصلاة، فصلى بهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصبح، ثم قال حين قضى الصلاة من نسي الصلاة فليصلها إذا ذكرها، فإن الله تبارك وتعالى يقول في كتابه وأقم الصلاة لذكري.
The great Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah ta'ala, he chapters Babu an-Nawm an as-Salah, sleeping from the prayer. In our last lesson we spoke about if the person becomes unconscious, what the ruling for that is regarding the prayer. Here we're talking about an-Nawm an as-Salah, whereas the person sleeps. Imam Malik ibn Anas, he said rahimahullah ta'ala, حدثني عن مالك عن ابن شهاب عن سعيد بن المسيب. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab, his name is said in two different ways. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, ama Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab. There is a mention that he didn't like his name to be said as Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab, and that he liked to be called Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. But that narration of his is not authentic. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, however you want to say it, they said كان يفتي والصحابة أحياء. He used to give fatwa whilst the companions were alive. That's the level he reached in knowledge. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib كان يفتي, he used to give fatwa, وأصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحياء. The companions of the messenger were alive. The reason why he was able to give fatwa, Islamic rulings, fatwa, is because of the caliber he reached in knowledge. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, He married the daughter of Abu Hurairah. He married the daughter of Abu Hurairah. The reason why he married her was because she had great knowledge. She had a lot of narrations that she took from her father. She possessed a lot of knowledge. Sa'id ibn Musayyib could have married any woman he wanted from the women of Quraysh, but he chose to marry, and of course you have to understand the class system that works in the region. And Abu Hurairah, whose name is AbdulRahman ibn Sakhrin, is a man from the Qabila of Daws, and his Qabila go back to Yemen. He actually came from Yemen and came to Medina, embraced Islam. Abu Hurairah, صح? And then Abu Hurairah is not a man from that land. Sa'id ibn Musayyib married his daughter Abu Hurairah so he could take knowledge from her and ilm. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Sa'id ibn Musayyib, I'll tell you guys a story about him. The Amir of the Mu'mineen of that time, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, made a decision to come to Hajj. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan made a decision that he's going to come to Hajj that year. And in order for him to come to Hajj, he felt that he wanted to go through Medina. And Medina was the place that Sa'id Musayyib was located in. He's, by the way, one of the 7 fuqaha, one of the 7 jurists of Medina, who the fatwa of Medina revolves around. I've mentioned it a few times. إذا قيل من في العلم 7 أبحر روايتهم ليست عن العلم خارجة فقلهم عبيد الله عروة قاسم سعيد Abu Bakr, Sulaiman, Kharija. Sa'id Musayyib is one of the fuqaha is-sab'ah. So Abdul Malik ibn Marwan made the decision to go to Hajj, and he said, I'm going to go through Medina. I'm going to spend some time there. I am going to visit the Prophet's masjid, and then going to go Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. Of course, he's the leader of the Muslims. So from his route from Sham until he makes it to Medina, everybody who finds out that the Amir al-Mu'mineen is taking this route, they all put a tent for him, food, they serve him. Of course, they all want to invite them into their house. Until he reaches Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the city of Medina. And when he comes to the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the masjid had ulama and people of knowledge in the masjid teaching. One halaqa is the halaqa of Urwa ibn Zubair. The other halaqa is Sa'id ibn Musayyab. The other halaqa is another alim, Abdullah ibn Utbah, and others. The Prophet's masjid is full of the senior tabi'een who are teaching and educating the people. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan came to the city of Medina. He went to sleep, qaylula. He woke up for Salatul Dhuhr, and then he requested that he called onto his servant. His name was Maysara. He said, Maysara, come here. Maysara came. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan said to him, he said, Labbayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. I'm here to obey you, or the rule of the Muslims. What do you want from me? He said, what I want you to do is to go to the Prophet's masjid. And when you go to the Prophet's masjid, get me one of those scholars who are there in the masjid to me and bring them to me so that they can give me knowledge and I can benefit from them in my stay here. So Maysara goes and he goes to the Prophet's masjid. When he goes to the Prophet's masjid, he sees Sa'id ibn Musayyab sitting, teaching the people. He gives a signal to Sa'id ibn Musayyab and he says to him, Sa'id carries on his lecture and his dars. When he finishes, he said, did you not see that I waved at you? Sa'id said, I did. He said, what do you want from me? He said that the ruler of the Muslims is calling you and he's telling you to come to him so that you can narrate to him. Sa'id said, rahimahullah ta'ala, al-ilmu yu'ta wa la ya'ti. Knowledge, you come to it. If you want knowledge, you come to knowledge. Knowledge doesn't come to you. If you want to learn, if he wants to learn, he can come, the halaqah, just like everybody else, sit down, and benefit and take the knowledge. Maysara went back and he told Abdul Malik ibn Marwan what he came across. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan automatically knew who that person was. He said, Hada Sa'id ibn Musayyab. That is who? Hada Sa'id ibn Musayyab. That is Sa'id ibn Musayyab. Then the children of Sa'id ibn Musayyab started to discuss amongst themselves, how dare this individual does not come to the ruler of the Muslims. Now this is not by no way Sa'id ibn Musayyab disobeying the Muslim ruler. La abadan. And it is not a form of rebellion, but it's to respect knowledge and the inheritance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and venerating knowledge. Okay? Sa'id ibn Musayyab, from this perspective, he's looking at knowledge. Anyone who wants to learn it, not him, it's not him, it's the knowledge. That has to be respected. That has to be honored, regardless of who the person is. Why? Because this is whose inheritance? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The same way no one can say to the Prophet, come here. It's the same way you won't say to the Prophet, come to me. You can't say to his narrations, should come to me. Are we all together, brothers? So Sa'id radiyallahu ta'ala, rahimahullahu ta'ala, Abdul Malik's sons, his two sons, started to discuss amongst themselves, how dare this man does this? Who does he think he is? So one of the sons of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he tells and he informs him, he says, do you not know what Sa'id ibn Musayyab did to your brother Walid? He said, what did he do to him? He said, do you not know that Dad, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, requested for the daughter of Sa'id ibn Musayyab for Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and that he refused? Who refused? Sa'id Musayyab, he refused to give his daughter to Abdul Malik, Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan's daughter, for him to marry his daughter. Yani Sa'id Musayyab's daughter, not to marry Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And Sa'id Musayyab mentioned why he didn't want to. He said, I nurtured my daughter upon bread and water. I raised her, taught her the simplicity of life. I raised her to turn away from the dunya and to face towards the akhirah. I made her memorize the Qur'an at a very young age. I made her learn and learn and learn. How would I be as a father if I handed her over to Bani Umayyah and she lived with them in their qusur and their castles and palaces, and she has servants and maids that serve her, and she sees the dunya and she forgets the akhirah? What would I be as a father? But what did he do? Sa'id ibn Musayyab. Sa'id, when Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan came for his daughter, or wanted to marry Sa'id Musayyab's daughter, Sa'id Musayyab had one of his students who came to the halaqah. Sa'id, as soon as the request came, he was looking to marry his daughter off somebody else. One of his students, who was a mulazim, consistent student, wouldn't miss a class. He would not miss a what? A class. Every lesson he's there. Would just happen to miss a few lessons. Sa'id asked about him. Where is Fulan? Why is he not here? They said to him, he has, no one knows what his situation is. The student came back. Sa'id said to him, where have you been? I haven't seen you for the last few days. He said, the reason you never saw me is because my wife passed away. She died, and we had to bury her, pray janazah on her. Sa'id said, why did you not inform me? I would have come. He said, Sa'id, for 40 years, you've never taken any other distance except your house to the masjid to the house. For 40 years, Sa'id Musayyab, Takbiratul Ihram, Allahu Akbar, he never missed it. For 40 years, Sa'id Musayyab never saw the neck of someone from the back in the prayer. He was always at the front line. And he never prayed on the second or the third line in the masjid. Are we all together? So he said, I never thought to myself that you would come He said, I would have come. This is a good deed. He said, now that you have no wife, do you want to marry? He said, who would marry me off? I'm faqir, I have nothing. And I'm an orphan. And I was an orphan, yateem. So nobody would marry any woman to me. So that was my chance. And now Saeed said, I want to marry my daughter off to you. He said, are you joking with me, Saeed? Because no, I really want to marry my daughter off to you. So Saeed, rahimahullah ta'ala, what he did was he married, he called him, he did the nikah for him, married his daughter off to him, and he said, go to your house. And the student went to his house, and the same night Saeed came, knocked on the door. He said, wa hajab. No one's ever seen Saeed change his route. Masjid house. He was shocked. Saeed Musayyib knocking on my door. One of the most knowledgeable men on the earth that day. With him is his daughter, who memorized the book of Allah. Thousands of narrations that she had memorized from her father. And he married her off to his student. Saeed rahimahullah ta'ala was a man who turned away from the dunya, never saw anything in his dunya. Akhirah was what was in his mind and his heart. Muli'a ilman, filled with knowledge, high integrity. Kutub al-Hadith, Bukhari, Muslim, Abi Dawud, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Nasa'i, Muwatta, Malik, Musnad Ahmad. The books of Hadith, his narrations are full of it. He spent his life teaching, educating, and rectifying his own actions. He was between ilm and amal. He was what? Between ilm and what? And amal. Sa'id, this hadith, if you look at it, is mursal. Meaning Sa'id is he's a tabi'i, and he's attributing this to who? The Prophet ﷺ. By the way, the ta'riful mursal is not all agreed upon by all of the ulama. Some of the ulama, they consider mursal أي نوع من أنواع الانقطاع, any form from the forms of disconnection, they consider that to be a mursal. If the hadith is disconnected, they consider that mursal. How many types of disconnections are there? There are 4 types of inqita' which are zahir, apparent. And there is 2 which is khafi, is hidden. The 4 types of disconnection in hadith are zahir, that the eye can catch. If you study a little bit, you can see it. You don't have to have deep knowledge. You can, the inqita' which is zahir, these 4, it's easy to catch. One is the mu'allaq. The mu'allaq is مثلا Bukhari's teacher is missing. His teacher, he doesn't mention it. So it's disconnected because Bukhari's teacher is missing. Or maybe his teacher and the person above that. As long as the teacher is missing. That's called a what? Mu'allaq. A mu'dal, which is the second, it's when there's 2 people. Mu'dal is called. When there is 2 people, but they have to be next to each other. Are missing is called a what? وَالْمُعْضَلُ السَّاقِطُ مِنْهُ اثْنَانِ. When 2 people are missing, but they have to be right next to each other. This is called a what? Mu'dal. The third type is called what? It is called a mursal. It's called a what? So I mentioned a mu'allaq, and I mentioned a mu'dal, and the third one is a what? Mursal. Mursal is what? Mursal is when a tabi'i, disputed by the way, of what the definition of a mursal, لكن قول المتأخرين, the scholars who came later, they define mursal means when a tabi'i, the student of the companion, attributes to the Prophet a statement. There's a disconnection here. Are we all together? A mursal. Hey, who knows the other 4th type of saqt, which is zahir? A munqati', which is a disconnection that happens anywhere in the chain as one person. That's a munqati', right? In the middle, if just one person is missing, that's also. So those 4 are called saqt, which is zahir. There is 2 which is khafi, it's hidden. It requires deep knowledge. It requires more than just knowing the days, years when somebody was born and when he died and who he took from. This is more. This is called tadlis. Tadlis and al-mursal al-khafi. Mursal al-khafi is different from the mursal. Mursal al-khafi is different. Those 4 here and 2 here, 6 are what? Disconnection. It goes against the first condition of a hadith to be what? Sahih. Now pay attention. Why is Malik bringing in his Muwatta a hadith which is mursal? As Iraqi mentions, واحتج مالك كذا النعمان وتابعوهما به ودانوا. واحتج مالك واحتج مالك كذا النعمان. Malik ibn Anas, Nu'man here is who? Abu Hanifa and Nu'man ibn Thabit. Both of them, they consider the hadith which is mursal to be what? Accepted. That's one qawl. The first view when it comes to ihtijaj bil mursal, Malik ibn Anas believes the hadith which is mursal accepted. Imam Malik, he believes it's a hujjah. And so does who? Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala. ولذلك this is an issue now. When you're talking to a Maliki or a Hanafi, he will accept a hadith which is mursal, and you may not consider that to be sahih to you, and that's where the discussion comes from, sir. Malik ibn Anas, here you have, actually what Imam Malik sometimes does is a hadith which is musnad, muttasil, which is connected, he will mention it, or he will not mention it, he'll just mention the mursal. Because to him is what? Both of them are accepted. The second view is that the mursal is not accepted. Is what? It's not accepted. It's da'if. This is قول جمهور أئمة الحديث. This is the view of the majority of scholars of hadith. That is not accepted. That is weak. Are we all together? لكن الإمام الشافعي رحمه الله, he says, Shafi'i, I am not on the view of Malik ibn Anas wala Abu Hanifa. I am not with them. Nor am I on the side of those who say it's da'if qawlan wahidan. I have another opinion, which is with 4 conditions, I will accept the hadith which is mursal. But he meets 4 conditions. Are we all together? And Imam al-Shafi'i in his kitab al-Risala, he mentions the 4 conditions where he will accept the mursal. Are we all together, brothers? I'm not going to go through the 4 conditions. We'll leave that for Mustalah Hadith and another time. Lakin Shafi'i, one of the narrations which are mursal that he accepts, qawlan wahidan, is the marasil of Sa'id al-Musayyab. Sa'id al-Musayyab is mursal. What Sa'id al-Musayyab attributes to the Prophet, Imam al-Shafi'i accepts it. Are we all together, brothers? Which is this narration, like these narrations. He'll accept it. Imam al-Shafi'i will accept it. Why will he accept it? Shafi'i said, تَتَبَّعْتُ مَرَاسِيلَ سَعِيدِ مُسَيِّبٍ. I followed up the marasil of Sa'id Musayyib. I followed them up. فَوَجَدْتُهُ مُسْنَدًا. I found them all connected. Now I have a question then. Is Shafi'i's acceptance of the marasil of Sa'id al-Musayyab because they're mursal, or because he found them musnada and he accepted it because they're connected? Do you understand? The best book I've seen written in this particular field of the hadith which are mursala is the kitab called Jami' al-Tahsil fi Ahkam al-Marasil. Jami' al-Tahsil fi Ahkam al-Marasil by Salahuddin Khalil Al-Kaykaldi Al-Kaykaladi Al-Ala'i rahimahullah ta'ala. Faqih Shafi'i and also a muhaddith. He has a kitab called Jami' al-Tahsil fi Ahkam al-Marasil. It's worth reading and looking at and seeing what this issue is. Yeah. So this hadith, by the way, it's actually authentic and it's accepted, and there is no issue, inshaAllah ta'ala. If you want to look at the conditions that I mentioned, the 4 conditions that Imam al-Shafi'i has, 4 conditions, you can go to the kitab Fath al-Mughith بشرح ألفية الحديث. يعني شمس الدين السخاوي, who is a student of Hafiz ibn Hajar, is explaining the book written by his teacher, Hafiz ibn Hajar's teacher, Zainuddin al-Iraqi, his Alfiyah al-Hadith, known as also known as التبصرة والتذكرة. So that's regarding حدثني يحيى عن مالك عن ابن الشهاب عن سعيد بن المسيب. لكن سعيد بن المسيب, he's من كبار التابعين, he's one of the senior تابعين. Who is it that's narrating from Sa'id al-Musayyab here? Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. Zuhri is a tabi'i as well. So it's Sa'id al-Musayyab. Like Shafi'i won't accept the marasil of who? Al-Zuhri. لأن الزهري is what? من كبار من صغار التابعين. He's from this younger one. Okay, how do you know which one is kibar and which one is صغار? How do they come to the conclusion فلان is من كبار التابعين and فلان is من صغار التابعين? How? So the kibar is صحيح. We look at this tabi'i, how many sahabis did he narrate from versus how many tabi'i did he narrate from. Sa'id Musayyib, for example, why would he go to a tabi'i when he's got majority of the people alive at his time? Sahaba, right? So majority of his narrations are going to be what? Sahaba. Then if Sa'id drops someone, who's he most likely dropping? Sahabi. فهمتم؟ وإبهام الصحابي لا يضر. And the ambiguity of a companion does it harm. The fact that we don't know who the companion is, Sahabas قولا واحدا, they are udul, صح? The companions are what? Udul, they're all reliable. We don't question the companions, صح? Allah gave them a tazkiyah. There you go. What did Allah say? سبحانه وتعالى والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah is pleased with them. The muhajirin and the ansar. They don't require Ahmad ibn Hanbal to say this sahabi is thiqa and good. No. They don't need that. They got it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. صح? But anybody other than the companions, we need to know who they are. ولذلك Sa'id, because the bulk and the majority of the people in which he's going to narrate from is a sahabi. Okay? And it's nadir, very rare that Sa'id Musayyib will narrate from another tabi'i. Then we will say the marasil of Sa'id is what? It's a accepted narration. The other tabi'i, like in their marasil, the reason why we want is because they can narrate from another tabi'i, and that tabi'i we need to know, is he udul? Has he got dabt, etc. Does that make sense? Am I making sense, brothers? So that's why Sa'id is accepted, rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's accepted and it's taken on board. هي أن رسول الله
صلى الله عليه وسلم حين قفل من خيبر أسرى حتى
The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم قفل. The word قفل يقفل, it means رجع. قفل means to return. The word قفل, what does it mean? رجع. ولذلك the Arabs, they have something called التفاؤل في الألفاظ. It's amazing. They use words تفاؤلا. The word قفل is the word that they use for قافلة. قافلة is a what? Caravan, right? But if we just said that the word قفل means رجع, and we find that the Arabs saying العير, they say the Arabs العير التي تنشؤ السفر. The قافلة is what? When the camel is about to embark on the journey, start the journey, they call this a qafila. When we just took that the word qafala means ay raja'a, and the qafila hasn't even returned back, why are they referring to it as a qafila? Tafa'ulan, hoping that it's going to come back. And the Arabs do this a lot. The word al-qafila, they're saying that this caravan is going to go and come back, because the word qafila means, it comes from the word qafala yaqfulu, which means raja'a. Are we all together? And Arabs do that for a lot of words in the language, such as the word as-sahara al-muhlika, the open desert. which there's no tree. The sun is hitting your head. There is no end to that desert. You can't see no end to it. Anyone who takes it, most likely gonna die. What do the Arabs call it? They call it mafaza. قطع المفازة, صح? Mafaza means a fawz, is to succeed. Are we all together? They're trying to say that if he cuts this desert, sayafuz, he's going to succeed, right? The Arabs also call the person who is bitten by a scorpion al-ladiga. Okay? What do they refer to it as? Salim. Even the Maghariba, the Moroccans, ask them, what do they call fire? The Moroccans, they call the fire afia. If you go to Morocco and you say, As'alullah laka al-afiyah, is it a dua? It's fire, be careful. Are we all together, sir? Who's from Morocco? Put your hand up. Yeah? Who knew that the Moroccans call the fire afia? Be careful. When you go there, don't say that. Why do they say that? Because tafa'ulan. That's originally why they did. So it's common. The Arabs, they call the mashur, the person whose magic has been done to him. They refer to it as matbub, a tib, hoping that inshallah ta'ala is medically going to be better. They refer to the maqbara, the grave, they refer to it as a rawdah, garden. Sah. All of these are just like here, which is أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين قفل أي رجع القافلة. That's why they give it that name. تفاؤلا إن شاء الله تعالى. من خيبر. Khaybar, and some of the riwayat mentions من Hunayn. So here's a difference. There's a discrepancy. Is it Khaybar or Hunayn? ولذلك this narration, we have it Sa'id ibn Musayyib connected from Abu Hurairah. Are we all together? Sa'id Musayyib here, this hadith is mursal here, he didn't mention who he heard from, right? Like we have the narration musnada connected where Sa'id mentioned that he heard from Abu Hurairah, his father-in-law. Sah? Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab narrating from Abu Hurairah, and then Abu Hurairah, the day of Khaybar, Abu Hurairah was not a Muslim yet. Sah? There's a dispute, by the way. Was it Khaybar? Did he participate or did he not? There is a dispute. Some of the ulama believe that Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, like Ibn Hibban, he said أخبر ابن قتيبة بهذا الخبر وقال فيه خيبر وأبو هريرة لم يشهد خيبر. Abu Hurairah did not participate in Khaybar. صح? He did not what? Did not participate. He did embrace Islam, correction. He did become a Muslim, but he didn't participate in Khaybar. Okay? So some of the scholars, they said it's min Hunayn. Allahu A'lam. Because Khaybar and Hunayn have a lot of similarities in it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam حين قفل رجع. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he turned back, or the Prophet returned from what? Min Khaybara. The Prophet returned back from where? Khaybar. Okay. Asra. The word Asra وسرى بمعنى واحد. أسرى وسرى is the same meaning. You have to remember that. أسرى وسرى in the Arabic language, they mean the what? The same meaning. And what does the word أسرى يسري إسراء, what does it mean? It means صار ليلا. It's when a person traverses at night. At night. That's why Allah says in the Qur'an, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا. ليلا here is من باب التأكيد. It's emphasis. Are we all together? It's what? Emphasis. ولذلك there's an Arab مثل, an Arab proverb مثل that was taken from Khalid ibn Walid. When Khalid came from Iraq to Sham of Yarmouk, the battle of Yarmouk. Okay? Khalid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said a statement. Arabs, it's a method now, it's a proverb the Arabs use. عند الصباح يحمد القوم السرى. In the morning, the people will appreciate the night traversing that they did. Yani, when somebody passes their test in the exam in the Jami'ah and they say, well, all of the night that I didn't sleep and I worked hard, here I am, I'm appreciating what I did, sah? Yeah, and once you put the work in at night when everybody else is sleeping, you exert effort, then in the morning you're going to reap the fruits of what you did, sah? So عند الصباح يحمد القوم السرى. Surah here means the night movement. That's what I want from it. Surah. It means traversing at night. This is what the narration is mentioning. My brothers, just a little benefit here, inshallah ta'ala. When it comes to traversing at night, the sunnah is that the person sleeps the first part of the night, and the second part of the night is when you travel. That's the sunnah. That's what's beloved. Okay? And the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that's what he was like, alayhi salatu wassalam. He said in the hadith, alaykum bid-dulja. Upon you is what? Ad-dulja. Abu Dawud narrated this hadith. The Prophet said, alaykum bid-dulja. Upon you is ad-dulja. فَإِنَّ الْأَرْضَ تُطْوَى بِاللَّيْلِ. Because the earth is rolled up at night. Ad-dulja, it means آخر الليل, the last part of the night. And if you're going to travel the last part of the night. The first part of the night, sleep. And when should you travel? The last part of the night. That's what the Prophet ﷺ, he said. Also, when a person is traveling, brothers, try not to travel by yourself. When you're going to travel, don't travel by yourself. Try to travel with somebody with you. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith that Imam Al-Bukhari narrated, من حديث ابن عمر رضي الله من حديث ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما عبد الله بن عمر من حديث عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما, the Prophet, he said, لو يعلم الناس ما أعلم. If the people were to know that which I know, ما صار راكب بليل وحده. Nobody would traverse at night by himself. If you knew what I know, you wouldn't. The word that the Prophet here said, لو يعلم الناس ما أعلم ما صار بالليل راكب وحده. A person will not travel. صار, يعني night travel. بالليل وحده, nobody will travel by themselves. Does it make sense? And then let's come back to the hadith. The hadith is telling us that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he returned back from Khaybar, he traveled at night. He traversed at night. Okay? That's what the narration is mentioned. Hey?
حتى إذا كان من آخر الليل عرس.
The narration mentions حتى إذا كان من آخر الليل, when it was the last part of the night, عرس. The word عرس, يعرس, تعريسا. التعريس means what? It means النوم is to sleep. That's one view. The word التعريس, it means to what? It is to sleep. So this hadith shows us that it's no problem that you can sleep at the last night part of the night and travel the first part of the night if you want to. I mentioned the hadith, alaykum bid-dulja. So it shows permissibility. Whichever part of the night you love to travel, you can travel. Are we all together? Like in this term, at-ta'ris, that the hadith mentions, حتى إذا كان من آخر الليل عرس. Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi, who is the teacher of Sibawayhi, and he's the Imam Ahl al-Basra. He's the Imam of the people of Basra in what? He is the Imam of the people of Basra in the Arabic language. Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi. He's the author of the Kitab al-Ain. He taught Sibawayhi. Sibawayhi studied with him. Sibawayhi holds the opinion that the word at-ta'risu, it means an-nawmu fi akhir al-layl, to sleep at the last part of the night. That's his view. Okay? That's what he believes. Other scholars, they mention, and he believes that it can't be any other time. Whereas the other scholars of the Arabic language, they hold that the word at-ta'ris can be used for day and also night. Sleeping at day and also sleeping at night. It doesn't matter. It can be used for any one of that. And the evidence to show that that opinion is stronger than the opinion of Khalil Muhammad al-Farahidi is the hadith that Imam al-Bukhari narrated in his Sahih. The hadith that Imam al-Bukhari narrated in his Sahih shows that the word at-ta'ris can be known is it's understood as what? Daytime and nighttime, and not just akhir al-layl as Khalil Muhammad al-Farahidi restricted it to. Are we all together? And what is that hadith? Hadith al-ifk al-tawil, hadith al-ifk, the hadith where our mother Aisha was accused of zina, where she was free from it. In that narration it mentions فانطلق يقود بي الراحلة حتى أتينا الجيش معرسين في نحر الظهيرة. That's the part I want from the hadith. It mentions معرسين في نحر الظهيرة. أما هو معرسون في نحر الظهيرة. Daytime, at dhuhr time. So the word التعريس is here being used for what? Daytime. نعم. Also the Prophet ﷺ used the word التعريس for nighttime as well. In the hadith that Imam Muslim narrated where the Prophet, he said, وَإِذَا عَرَّسْتُمْ, if you guys go to sleep at night, وَإِذَا عَرَّسْتُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ فَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّرِيقَ, stay away from the road. Don't sleep on the road. Yani don't sleep in the middle of the road. Be careful. Some people, just anywhere they get tired, they'll sleep. The hadith says, وَإِذَا عَرَّسْتُمْ فَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّرِيقَ, stay away from the path. فإن الطريق أما فإنها طرق الدواب ومأوى الهوام أما ومأوى الهوام بالليل, because animals, creatures, anything can come and harm you. So the word can be used for night and it can also be used for day. But this hadith is night because it says حتى إذا كان من آخر الليل عرس, so that now it's night time because the hadith itself shows it. صح? وقال لبلال, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to Bilaal. So the hadith is telling us the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he returned from Khaybar or Hunayn, traversing at night. The Prophet was traveling at night time alayhi salatu wasalam, until when it was the last third of the night, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or the last part of the night, the Prophet, he said to Bilaal, the Prophet spoke to Bilaal and he said to Bilaal, وقال لبلال اكلأ لنا الصبح. The word اكلأ, it means احفظ لنا الوقت. اكلأ, the Qur'an uses it. قل من يكلأكم, صح? قل من يكلأكم means أي قل من يحفظكم, who's going to protect you, صح? Brothers, you have to take time out learning the Arabic terminologies. Having a book where you write the words in there, where you look up the meaning of each word, what it means, the context it can be used in. Brothers, take time out to learn the Arabic language. Take time what? To learn the Arabic language. Learning its mufradat, it's each word, what it means, in what context can it be used in, how can it be said, how can it... Learning is very important. وَلَوْلَا الشِّعْرُ بِالْعُلَمَاءِ, the poet, he said, Ibn Wannan in his kitab al-Shamakmakiyya, he says, لو لم تكن للشعر عند من مضى فضل على الكعبة لم يعلق لو لم يكن فيه بيان آية ما فسرت مسائل من الأزرق. He said, because the Arabic language is preserved, brothers, in what? شعر, صح? شعر is ديوان العرب. That's Arab dictionary. That's how they preserve their language, through poetry. The Ibn Wannan here, he's saying in his Shamakmakiyya, مهلا على رسلك حان الأينقي ولا تكلفها بما لم تطقي فطالما كلفتها وسقتها سوقفة من حالها لم يسبق. يعني his long poetry, he mentions in there, Ibn Wannan, what does he say? ولو لم تكن للشعر عند من مضى فضل, if the poetry was not important to the scholars before and they didn't see the poetry to be something important, ولو لم تكن للشعر عند من مضى على الكعبة لم يعلق, they would never have tied the معلقات. امرؤ القيس معلقة, زهير بن أبي سلمة, عنترة, عمرو بن كلثوم, حارث بن حلزة اليشكري, الأعشى, and these guys whose poetry, if that's authentic, of course, if it's authentic, that their poetry was connected to the Kaaba. This is before Islam, before Nabi Muhammad came. These Arabs, they used to write their poetry, stick it on the Kaaba, stick it on the Kaaba. لو لم يكن للشعر عند من مضى فضل على الكعبة لم يعلق لو لم يكن فيه بيان آية. And if the poetry was not used to explain the Qur'an, then the questions ولو لم يكن شعر ما مضى على الكعبة لم يعلق لو لم يكن فيه بيان آية ما فسرت مسائل ابن الأزرق. Ibn al-Azraq was a Khariji. Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, his name was. He's a Khariji. He was one of the heads of the Khawarij at his time. He used to come to Abdullah ibn Abbas and he would ask him ayats of the Qur'an. He would say, what does ayah mean? Abdullah ibn Abbas would tell him. And he will say to him, هل تعرف العرب ذلك? Does the Arab know this? يعني, can you support this interpretation of the verse with an Arabic? And he would say, نعم. Abdullah ibn Abbas. And he would say, العرب تعرف that. The Arabs do know this. And he would say, hey, give me a shi'r. And he give him a shi'r. 190 questions he asked Abdullah ibn Abbas. And every time he would say to him, give me a poetry to support it. And Abdullah ibn Abbas would give it to him. Yani Abdullah ibn Abbas memorized this poetry to interpret the verses and the ayat of the Qur'an. Are we all together, brothers? So it's important, brothers, to take time out to memorize it, to learn it, to look it up, look at the and also to spend time. Yani, wallahi, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, to read the dictionary like a book. The Arabic dictionary, open it and look at each word. And one day focus on all the letters which are ba, yani, for a week or so, or days, and then go to ta, and then tha, and then ji, وهكذا. Go through all of the Arabic words, and any word that sticks out, you've never heard this before, write it down, look it up, why, etc. If you want to start from a book, I will say to you, start from the Kitab Al-Misbah Al-Munir by Fuyumi. Al-Fuyumi's Misbah Al-Munir, start with that book. I have my son who's 11 years old. I make him read it. I ask him, what does that word mean? Hey, now, every day he has to memorize a few words. 5 words, 6 words, until he finishes the entire dictionary. Why? Because it's connected to what? The Qur'an. Are we all together, brothers? Until the person goes to Lisan al-Arab, where they go in, يتوسع. You go into great details learning the words. And here, look how many words we learned. At-Ta'ris we learned. صح? Qafala we learned. We just learned that the word ikla lana subh, what it actually means, ihfad, ayah in the Quran, قُلْ مَنْ يَكْلَأُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ. We just learned it means يحفظكم, صح? It's very important. وقال لبلال اكلأ لنا الصبح. So the Prophet spoke to Bilaal and he said, Bilaal, look out the Fajr prayer for us. We're expecting you to look out for the Fajr prayer. What did he do?
ونام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه وكلأ بلال ما قدر له ثم.
So here he mentions ونام رسول الله. The Prophet said to Bilaal, you look out the night Fajr for us. So he used Bilaal as the alarm. You're the one who's going to wake us up. Okay, Bilaal. And the Prophet went to sleep. Alayhi salatu wasalam. So ونام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And the Prophet, he went to sleep. وأصحابه, and his companions also went to sleep with him. وَكَلَأَ بِلَالٌ, أي حَفِظَ بِلَال. Bilal was looking at the time for the Fajr. مَا قُدِّرَ لَهُ, what was written for him, what Allah wrote for him, he tried his best. Some of the riwayat actions, riwayah Muslim I came across, it mentions فَصَلَّى بِلَالٌ مَا قُدِّرَ لَهُ. Allahu Akbar. Bilal, he didn't just sit there and wait for Fajr to come. He spent that time praying. And he kept praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And this is something, my brothers and sisters, that a lot of us don't do. You see a brother who's in a hospital, for example. He's in the waiting room. Or he goes to the office somewhere here. And he's in the waiting room. And he's just sitting there doing nothing or playing with his phone. Why are you wasting that time for? That's time that you're going to regret the day of judgment that you didn't remember Allah. Are we all together? That opportunity, that time that you're waiting, what should you do? Read the Qur'an. Do tasbih. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Subhanallah al-azim. Do that. Are we all together, brothers? Because we know Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah al-azim is what? Words that are very heavy on the scale. They're heavy on the scale. And they are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنَامَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَأَصْحَابُهُ. The Prophet, he went to sleep and his companions. وَكَلَأَ بِلَالٌ مَا قُدِّرَ لَهُ. Bilal, he tried to look out the time for the Fajr for them. So when he prayed Salah, what he did is, the narration mentions, ثُمَّ اسْتَنَدَ إِلَى رَاحِلَتِهِ. He leaned. He prayed a little bit now. He's done his qiyam. He leaned on his riding beast. So he didn't lie down on the ground. Pay attention. This is different. If he lied on the ground, he prepared to go to what? To sleep with them. But he didn't. His job is to do what? To look out, right? So he leaned on his riding beast. So then what happened? وَهُوَ مُقَابِلُ الْفَجْرِ. And what does it mean? أي مقابل جهة التي يطلع منها الفجر. And he made sure, Bilaal, he's taking all the precautions. He faced towards the direction where he can see the Fajr coming out. So he sat there. He wants to check the time of the Fajr when it comes in. Then what happened? فَغَلَبَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. His eyes overcame him. He went to sleep as well. He knocked out. This is what the Prophet means, alayhi salatu wasalam, when he said, النوم ليس فيه تفريط. When the Prophet said this, that there is no negligence in the sleep. If somebody sleeps and they miss Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, in Islam, this is not negligent. But it is negligence if you slept 5 minutes before Fajr. Deliberately went in bed and said, yeah, inshallah, I'll wake up. And you miss Fajr, this is negligence. But if you slept at your right time and you knocked out and you slept, لَيْسَ فِي النَّوْمِ التَّفْرِيطِ, the Prophet said. There's no negligence in it. You took all the precautions, you slept the right time, you made sure, and you slept. In Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought this sleep on you. There's nothing upon you. You put the alarm on and everything, but you still didn't wake up, no problem. There's nothing upon you in that situation. Does that make sense? But you are negligent. You don't put no alarm on. You sleep 2 minutes before Fajr or 5 minutes before Fajr, 10 minutes before Fajr, and you know you're not going to wake up. This is negligence.
فغلبته عيناه فلم يستيقظ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا بلال ولا أحد من الركب.
So what happened was he slept. Fajr passed. And the Prophet slept. Bilaal slept. All of the Sahaabah slept. What woke them up was the heat of the sun. The narration here mentions حتى ضربتهم الشمس, the sun, حرارة الشمس, the heat, the sun came out full. What did it do to them? It burnt their skin. They felt the heat and they woke up. أيقظهم حر الشمس. That's what woke them up. That's what it mentions in some of the narrations. Okay? And we spoke about the issue of the Hanafiya here, regarding that the Prophet, he didn't pray because it was waqtun nahi. We spoke about it. Already the sun had already come out. So it wasn't even waqtun nahi. We spoke about this, right? Previously. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke to Bilaal. He said, Bilaal, what happened to you? But before I go into that, how do we reconcile this? So the Prophet, he slept, right? So he missed. The Sahabas also missed. Bilaal overslept. How do we reconcile this with the statement that the Prophet, he said, Inna aynayya, my eyes, tanamani, they go to sleep. Wala yanamu qalbi, but my heart doesn't go to sleep. How do you reconcile that with what just happened to the Prophet here? The Prophet, he said, my eyes go to sleep, but my heart is awake. Sah? And we can see from this situation that the Prophet ﷺ was... The scholars, they say Allah intended for the Prophet to fully go to sleep here, because Allah wants to teach the Sahabas a ruling, which is if you sleep, the Prophet, things happen to him and Allah does it to him so that we learn a lesson from it. Are we all together? And from the things Allah was doing to the Prophet ﷺ here is what? For him to go to sleep. When he wakes up, to teach the companions what to do when this happens to them. Are we all together? That's what the scholars mentioned. Also, Bilal's response. What did Bilal say? He said, Ya Rasulullah, he said, O Messenger of Allah, أخذ بنفسي الذي أخذ بنفسك. He said, Ya Rasulullah, when the Prophet said, what happened to you, Bilal? Were you not the man who was meant to look out for us? He said, Ya Rasulullah, what took me is what took you. Now the scholars, they say, statements in different scenarios and different situations change from place to place, time to time, situations from situations. Huh? Yani, this statement of Bilal when he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, akhadha binafsi alladhi akhadha binafsik. What happened to me is what happened to you. Is that something good to say to the Prophet? Imagine a child said to his father, when he asked him, why did you go to sleep from the prayer? He said, أخذ بنفسي الذي أخذ بنفسك. Is that good? No, Bilal here, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, was not being rude. Just as you know, brothers, saying something that's true doesn't always mean it's justifiable. Some people think, I said the truth, but wallahi, was I lying? I was telling the truth. Yeah, but it's the truth, but you don't say it. No, I'm saying the truth. There's some truth, if you say it in a certain way, it's dangerous, huh? Yani the scholars mention in the kitab, Imam Qadi Iyad al-Yahsubi in his kitab al-Shifa, he mentions, hatta Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah in his kitab al-Sarim al-Maslul ala Shatim al-Rasul mentions it. We know our Prophet ﷺ was a shepherd, right? He was a what? Shepherd, right? If somebody mentions that the Prophet was a shepherd to belittle him, does he leave the fold of Islam? He falls under the Sabbun Nabi. But he's stating the truth, but he's saying it in a mockery way. Sah? Just because you said something which is true, it's also the intention and how you said it and what you meant, what context did you mean it. Sah? If you're saying that to belittle the messenger, when in reality this is an honor for him, because the person who can look after a flock of sheep can control and maneuver and run governments. Prophets, the reason why they were made shepherds was to what? Camels, camels, they follow the first camel, right? The camels, they follow the first one, the oldest one. They all go that. You just have to get control of the first one, and they all follow the first one. Sheep and goats, and they don't do that, huh? What do? You have to keep control. They all want to go different directions. Humans are like that, so are they not? They all want to do their own thing. You have to bring them together. They want to go, bring them together. Give them a goal. So the prophets are being trained of how to run a ummah. Sah? So honor for them. It's not bad things. Huh? So saying something that's true doesn't mean in no way, shape or form it's justifiable for you to say it. Sah? But Bilal here, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he's trying to justify that he wasn't doing this, Ya Rasulullah, deliberately. I wasn't doing this deliberately. Wallahi, sleep took over me. And I was not in my control. Naam. فقال رسول الله
صلى الله عليه وسلم اقتادوا.
The Prophet here, he said اقتادوا أي ارفعوا عن هذا المكان. That's what it means. Get up from this place. يعني not only you guys, واقتادوا رحالكم, and also get your riding beasts and your belongings from here. Some of the narrations mention the reason why the Prophet told him to move from this place and go to another place. He said that this is a place where shaitan, this is an evil place. Yani where we forgot Allah, we overslept. Shaitan, he has benefited from us. Let's get away from this place and go to another place. That's what the Prophet said. The reason why he said that.
فبعثوا رواحلهم واقتادوا شيئا.
يعني انتقلوا من الوادي, they left that place that they were at and they went to another place which was close to it.
ثم أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا فأقام الصلاة.
Then Prophet commanded Bilal to do the adhan for the people. ثم أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا فأقام الصلاة. يعني he did the iqamah. Okay, that's what is in the majority of the riwayat of the Muwatta. But there is a riwayah which mentions فَأَذَّنَ أو أقام. Aqama here is iqama and adhan. So we have two. Here, Musnad al-Imam Ahmad, it mentions adhana without the shak. Okay? And there's the riwayah that other scholars have narrated where he says فَأَذَّنَ أو أقام. And the Musnad al-Imam Ahmad, it mentions فَأَذَّنَ. ولذلك the scholars disputed one another. What is the adhan for? Inshallah, we're going to come to it Bidnillah al-Kareem in the Muwatta. What is the adhan for? Is the adhan for is it the word adhan actually means al-i'lan, it's to proclaim, right? So is the adhan lidukhul al-waqt? Is it for the entering of the time, or is it for the prayer? If it's for the entering of the time, if the time has already entered a long time ago, there's no need to notify the people that the time has entered, so you don't need to do the adhan. صح? You just need to do the iqamah. If you say that the adhan is for the prayer, then every time you want to pray, you have to do adhan and iqamah. So that issue we're going to come to later, inshallah ta'ala, which one it is, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. It's going to come to us in the next hadith, the next coming hadith, inshallah ta'ala. That which seems apparent to me, wallahu a'la wa a'lam, is that it's for the prayer, not the entering of the prayer. That the adhan is for the prayer, not the entering of the prayer. Also, the adhan is for the jama'ah, it's not for the munfarid. So if a person is praying by themselves, there's no adhan for you. It's only when there is a jama'ah. But is it, it should be done if there is a jama'ah. Should be done. But it's recommended for the person who's by himself. Okay? It's recommended. What about if a person misses the prayer? Jama'ah, they missed the prayer. Should they do the adhan? Also same thing. Because it's for the prayer, they also should do it. Naam. Also, what we take from this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ, even that the Fajr had gone and they missed it, and that the Salah has now become Salah Fa'ita, they missed it, and that what they're doing is called Qada. The Prophet ﷺ, in some of the narrations, it mentions وَصَلَّى النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم الرَّكْعَتَيْنِ قَبْلَ الصُّبْحِ. He still prayed the 2 rak'ah before Fajr, which shows you can. Does that make sense? And you can also, so if he prayed before Fajr the 2 rak'ah and the Salah's already gone, are we all together, brothers? It shows that you can also pray the Sunnah after it as well. Because the principle is the person who wakes up, the prayer just entered for you now. You're not allowed to engage in anything else, because remember, you can't just walk around and take your time and enjoy yourself. You can be calm and collective, like the Prophet here is. The Prophet is not hasty here. He's not hasty, as we're going to see. But also, you can't be cooking food and here and making phone calls and etc. You have to be engaged in what the act is, ibadah. So you pray your 2 rak'ah sunnah, and then you pray your fajr. As we're going to see, the hadith is going to mention, من نام عن صلاة فليصليها من نام عن صلاة فليصليها إذا ذكرها لا كفارة له إلا ذلك.
ثم أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا فأقام الصلاة.
Then the Prophet ﷺ commanded, after he prayed his 2 rak'ah, he said to him, do the adhan, 2 rak'ah sunnah they prayed, and then the Prophet did the iqamah, which is profound, brothers and sisters. Nabi Muhammad was one of the calmest, very calm person. This is a very important quality to have. A lot of us, we have what is known as al-ajala. And even though it's not a hadith, authentically, the principle is al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan. Hastiness is from who? It's from shaitan. The Prophet ﷺ, even in times of battle, he taught the companions to be take it easy. Remember when he said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet said, unfudh ala rislika. He said to him, halatul harb, go calmly. He's saying to Ali, it's a fight going on. People are dying. Calmly. Are we all together? So, even الظروف التي تقتضي الفزع times of shock and fear, the Prophet was calm. Look at this narration. The Prophet woke up, فَفَزِعَ النَّبِيُّ. The Prophet is shocked that he missed Fajr. But he's still calm and collective. Are we all together, brothers? Hatta look at Musa alayhi salam. When Musa left his people with his brother Harun, and he went to them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Tur Sinai, Allah said to him, وَمَا أَعْجَلَكَ عَنْ قَوْمِكَ يَا Musa. Musa, why did you hasten from your people and come here quickly? Who wouldn't rush to Allah? He said in the ayah, عَجِلْتُ إِلَيْكَ رَبِّي لِتَرْضَى. I rushed to you, O Allah, so you can be pleased with me. It was you, O Allah, I was running to. But that hastiness of Musa alayhi salam, that he hastened, and even though it was justifiable of why he hastened, it had a negative consequences, which is that your people now, a man by the name of Musa as-Samiri has come, and what he's done, he's misguided them, he has taken them away from the path that you left them upon. And Musa came back angry, and he grabbed the beard of his brother Harun, and he said, لا تأخذ بلحيتي ولا برأسي. Don't grab my beard or my hair. And then they had that conversation of what happened, and he told him, this man Musa Samiri came, he put sand inside the mouth of a calf that he shaped with his own hand, and he said to them, this is your Lord, worship him. So Musa left quickly without nurturing his people and educating them and allowing them to reach the level that they should have reached. And it had consequences. Now, this is the last part, inshallah ta'ala. Here.
فصلى بهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصبح.
The Prophet then led them in the Fajr prayer. Here.
ثم قال حين قضى الصلاة من نسي الصلاة فليصليها إذا ذكرها.
Anybody who forgets the prayer, let them pray when they remember it. You forgot the prayer, pray it when you remember it. Here. Another riwayah, what does it mention?
فإن الله تبارك وتعالى يقول في كتابه وأقم الصلاة لذكري.
Another riwayah mentions من نسي الصلاة. Anyone who forgets the prayer, فليصلي إذا ذكرها. Pray when you remember it. فإنه لا كفارة له إلا ذلك. There's no other expiation for it except that. That's the only expiation for it, to bring it back. Now the scholars here differ on another issue then. The hadith clearly and categorically mentions the one who forgets. And the hadith was also used for the person who goes to sleep. Because another wording hadith mentions مَنْ نَامَ عَنْ صَلَاةٍ أَوْ نَسِيَهَا. Another wording mentions that. Anyone who goes to sleep or forgets, they should pray when they remember, because there's no other way that you could get that prayer unless you pray. And there's no other expiation for you. Now the scholars, they said, what about if it's not sleeping and you didn't forget? So what is it? You deliberately let the prayer time go. In that situation, what can you do? The scholars, they differed on that issue. The person who the salah left, not because they forgot, not because they they overslept, but they were like, they're playing game, and they were told salah came in, and he goes, yeah, I'll pray, well, give me a minute. And then salah, 5 minutes left, yeah, I'll do it. And then salah goes. This person is what? Deliberately. In this situation, what does he have to bring back that prayer? There is a difference of opinion. There is a what? Difference of opinion in bringing back the prayer. We're not talking about the one who slept, and we're not talking about the one who forgot. That one, there's evidence, clear-cut evidence for it. We're talking about the one who deliberately watched the prayer time leave. The scholars, they have two opinions. We're talking about bringing back the prayer. The first opinion is لا يجب عليه القضاء, that it's not wajib on him to bring it back. Okay? And even if he tried to, it won't even be accepted from him. Because إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. The time of the prayer is limited, it's designated. There's a time when the prayer comes in, you watched it go. There is no route for you. You have no explanation. You're not allowed to bring it back. This is actually madhabu Ahl al-Zahir. Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm in his kitab Al-Muhalla, he strongly argues for this one. Okay, he strongly argues for this one, and he actually goes as far as saying that this is a consensus, when it's not really a consensus. And this is, by the way, something you have to understand. Fuqaha sometimes mention ittifaq, and the other opposite side mention another ittifaq, and there's two ittifaq, and you're like, which one's which? Nawawi brings the ittifaq on the other side. And Imam Nawawi, he brings the ittifaq that the person has to bring it back. Why? The one that, so the qawlul jumhur is that he brings back the prayer, even if he did it deliberately. Majority of the scholars hold the opinion, which is the second view, qawlul jumhur. They believe من الحنفية والمالكية والشافعية والحنابلة, the majority of belief وجوب قضائها, that the person has to bring back the prayer. And as I said to you, Nawawi he brings an ijma' in this mas'ala. Why does he bring an ijma' when he knows that there is a Ahl al-Zahir? Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm has another opinion. Why is he bringing it? لأن النووي and other scholars like that, they consider Ahl al-Zahir not, their khilaf is not mu'tabar. يعني Ahl al-Zahir, their khilaf is not mu'tabar. لماذا? Who knows? Why the Zahiriyah, their khilaf is not mu'tabar? Because look, when Nawawi, when he brings ijma', look what he says. أجمع العلماء الذي يعتد بهم. He's sending a signal that there is the Zahiriyah, but لا يعتد بهم. Why is that the khilaf of the Zahiriyah is not? Yeah, because they don't accept qiyas. And a qiyas is a what? Is where ijtihad enters. Sah? If you don't accept qiyas, that means you don't accept ijtihad. If you don't accept ijtihad, أنت لست من أهل الاجتهاد إذن. Because if it's Qur'an, Sunnah, and ijma', those are التسليم والانقياد, صح? The ijtihad, where does it enter? قياس. خاصة باب العلة. So if you don't believe in qiyas, then you've closed the door of ijtihad. And for your khilaf to be mu'tabar, you have to be min ahli ijtihad. وأنت لست من أهل الاجتهاد لأن you don't even believe qiyas, صح? So the Zahiriyah, for that reason, not just that reason, but other reasons as well, is why they're not considered, their khilaf is not taken into consideration. There's a risala by Shaykh Abdul Salam Shuwai'ir, a risala he put together, where he talks about this mas'ala 2. هل الظاهرية, is the Zahiriyah, their khilaf mu'tabar, is it accepted, is it taken into consideration? Also Ibn Abdul Barr, Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm, by the way, he's one of the harshest people that you would possibly read their works. Very harsh individual, very tough. I read his Muhalla, harshness, qaswa. They said if Allah protects you from two things, you're saved. From the tongue of Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm and the sword of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, you're safe. And Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm is strong. He is anti-madahib, tough against them, ridicules them, belittles them in their opinions and the things that they say. But he's got a lot of knowledge to offer. But there's harshness in his words. With that being said, he admired Ibn Abdul Barr. He what? Somehow, for whatever reason, he loved Ibn Abdul Barr. Especially when he saw his tamheed. He was fascinated. They lived at the same time. Abu Muhammad Hazm was a thorn in the madhab al-Malikiyah because he lived in their midst. His father was a minister from a rich family, upper class. So he was from the upper class. Normally ulama are not from royal families, or they're not from Sah. He was. And so he was rich, had a lot of money. Him and Abu al-Walid al-Badri, back and forth. Back. But on the other side of is Abu Umar ibn Abdul Barr. He loves him, admires him, respects him. Ibn Abdul Barr refutes him in this mas'ala. This issue, he doesn't accept it from him. Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm. And his argument is very strong. Ibn Abdul Barr, when you look at it, he says, listen, the person who slept or the person who forgot, are they sinning? No. No. They forgot or they went to sleep. There's no sin. And this by consensus. Okay. And they are still mutalabun bil qada, and they're being told, bring it back. This one who is athimun, how are we going to let him go? This person who's a sinner, who's sinning, he's going to be requested. No, there's no way around this one. You're going to do it, and on top of that, you're still sinning. And you still have to do it. He says that's why. That's one. And also, there's no evidence to lift the prayer from anybody. Abu Muhammad says, no. The fact that the Prophet restricted it to the one who forgot and the one who overslept shows that there are other ways you don't bring it back. Huh? You don't bring it back. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll end it there. Bi'idhnillah al-Kareem. Anything I said that was wrong or incorrect is from me, shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are both free from it. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.